This is my testimony speech. I don't usually give my testimony very often, and it's always changing. Usually when somebody says, tell me your testimony, or what is your testimony, they usually think of a how, when, where. So a typical answer for that would be, I came to know who Christ was and asked him in my heart when I was about 5 years old through Keys for Kids. And that's pretty much how it happened. But I personally don't think of it that way. When I think of a testimony, I think of what have you done thus far and have learned that has added to your experience with living with God and for God. I grew up in a typical household. I have 2 brothers, and we all went to church. My parents are very solid believers of Jesus Christ and God. And they took us to church as soon as we were able to go to church, I guess you could say. After that, we always went home. Our mom would read us Keys for Kids, and she would tell us about it and try to help us understand it. And I asked God in my heart, because there was a certain particular time when we were discussing heaven and hell. And as any typical person is, you don't really want to go to hell because it doesn't sound very nice. Therefore, that's when I said, God, please enter my heart. But I must say, it didn't really strike me until later on. Later on, throughout my years, probably before I was like teenage years, I was just living life as I typically do, continuing on with life, having fun, being a kid. Around 12 years old, I started thinking to myself, what does saved mean? Am I really saved? How can I know if I'm saved? And for quite a long time, I would go through back and forth, like revivals we would have every once in a while. I'd be like, God, please come into my heart. Please, I beg you. I don't know if I'm saved. Save me. And that's probably not the healthiest thing for a teenager, but that's how I felt. Like I didn't know for sure, and I wanted to live more for him. And as a teenager, I was able to go help out with some VBSs, help with church functions, get out and understand the world and understand how it is to live a Christian life. I would say that I finally understood who God was and actually had it in my heart for sure when I was probably 13 or 14 years old. And that was a hard time for me. Still is kind of hard, but I was going through depression, very bad depression, and I was just looking for some sort of ease to that pain, some sort of comfort. And reading the Bible, doing Christian events, getting to know more who I am and who God is really brought me closer to him. And my testimony is still going on. After I was a teenager and after some events in my life, I continued on and became closer to him, would read the Bible, would pray to him more often, looked to him for guidance instead of just like going on with life. Like who cares what you think, God? But actually it was more like, God, please tell me what you want me to do. Show me what you want me to do. How should I live my life? And so I was doing that throughout my teenage years. After my teenage years, I decided to go to college. And the first college I went to actually was Davis College. I wanted to get a degree there, but I wasn't sure what. And this might not seem related, but it is to me. So after doing a few classes there, I decided to skip that and go to BCC. At BCC, I got my music degree, and then I had a couple years where I was just like, what should I do next? How should I continue on? What am I going to do with my life in this degree? How is it going to help me in the future? How is it going to help God? And after a couple years, I went back and was saying to myself, I should go to Davis again. And then, here I am now, at Davis. Now, you wouldn't typically think of that as a testimony. I don't have some long backstory of like struggles and addictions of any sort. I was just trying to understand who I was and who God is and trying to figure out how they would work together. And so eventually I decided to stop trying to be butting my head into things, trying to like think of myself and say, I don't know if I'm not good enough or anything like that. It was just, went to God and was like, okay, I'm in your hands. Whatever happens, it happens, and I will always look for you, and I know it will always work out for the better. I'm still like this now, currently. I'm trying to keep that up. And it is difficult at times, but that's what my testimony is. Just my biggest part of my life is where it's just like, I give up, God, you take the handles, take the controls, do with me what you will. I can't do this on my own. I need you to guide me. I need you to take the controls, because if I have the controls, I'm going to crash into something. And after that point in time, I had a peace in me and have lived that way ever since. It's like I said, it's not a very interesting testimony or extravagant. It's pretty typical in some cases, you would say, but that's how I came to know the Lord and how I'm currently living and living out in a testimony that is like that will hopefully continue to be better and more learned. See, I started out with just basic knowledge, Jesus, death, resurrection, heaven, hell, sin, evil, righteousness, all that stuff. And from there, I went to, what is it to be saved? What is it to believe? After that, I decided we moved into the, how can I live in this human world and still live with Christ? How can I continue this thing, this plan? And so that is where you give up control to God. He's like, I can't do it anymore, you need to take the controls. After that, we go into the part where it's like, I'm happy with where I'm at. I want you to keep going. I want you to keep moving my life in your direction, and I want to see what it ends in the end. I look forward to what my testimony will be in 10 years from now, even 2 years from now. A month from now it could be very different. It could have a different thing added to it. It's always changing, and it's always growing, hopefully, in the right direction. Hopefully that wasn't too wordy, but that's my testimony. Bye.